Hi, good morning, Nancy. How are you?
I'm well, Keith. How are you? Good morning.
I'm
Good to
very,
meet you.
I'm very good. What a glorious day, and thank you so much for being here. And I'm very excited. You and I have talked a little bit about natural foods. As you all know, I'm now 100% plant-based, and really do believe the power of food and what it can do for you and how it can help your immune system. And I know that this is what you do. And for the benefit of those people who don't know you, can you perhaps just give them a little bit about your background? I've got your background in front of me here, but just kind of a brief, summary about why it is that you do what you do.
Sure. I went to culinary school. I went to the Natural Gourmet Institute, which is a nutrition-focused culinary school. So it had your traditional culinary training, but the focus really promoted nutrition, wellness, whole foods, sustainability, and the relationship between food and health and food and healing. So everything we did and every ingredient we worked with were unprocessed. And it was really focusing on the power of food and how that can support your health. I'm also an exercise fitness specialist / personal trainer, and I have a certification in nutrition and athlete and performance nutrition. And I just think putting the whole thing together really makes us feel good. And it leads to a lifetime of healthy habits. So as a chef with that athletic and nutrition background, I always like to say I like to translate nutrition to the plate. So instead of being overwhelmed by the question of what do I eat, and people think in terms of protein, fats, and carbohydrates, it's what foods can you put on your plate to make yourself feel good and feel healthy. And in the health and wellness world, that's what I really like to do, really educate and empower people who are looking for a healthy lifestyle.
That's fantastic. And I know that there's been, I know Netflix had a program recently that called Game Changers about nutrition and about health and wellness. But as we're looking at it right now, taking a look at your combination between food and fitness, what is it about food right now that, is important for folks to realize in terms of their body, in terms of their immune system? And, I mean, I don't know about you, but I just feel like, sometimes just having some Haagen-Dazs or, even though I don't eat dairy, but certainly loading up on dark chocolate, but, tell me a little bit about why people should be really concerned about what they're putting in their body right now.
Okay, well, I always like to think of whole foods, foods from nature. That's what your body recognizes, and that's what your body needs. So when you eat an apple with the skin on it, your body knows exactly what to do with it, or a whole egg. But when it comes to, say, processed foods and all those fake ingredients, the body just doesn't recognize it. So it's harder for it to process. It leads to inflammation, and high inflammation in the body is not a healthy body. So especially now with what we're going through, but it really should be all the time. I'm a big proponent of plants. That's where you get all your nutrients from, all the colors of the rainbow. And that really provides the body with exactly what it needs to stay healthy. So whereas your comfort food may be the pint of Haagen-Dazs vanilla ice cream and you feel good at the moment, you don't really feel well after you eat it. So, that's maybe a sometimes food, it's your comfort food. But on a daily basis, when you make the connection between food and how it makes you feel, you know that when you have the salad with the olive oil and, the chickpeas, you feel well after. You don't feel bloated, you have more energy. So it's really, really important. But especially now when we're trying to fight all these viruses and bacteria, if you give your body all it needs, it's well prepared to fight what's thrown at us, or at least you're not at a disadvantage.
Well, that sounds like a lot. I mean, give your body all it needs. I mean, but on a daily basis, are there certain things that we can do to keep our immune system up and thriving?
Absolutely. Hydration is a big key. I'm a big proponent of water. I always like to put some here. I have mine too, my lemon water. I start the day with a big glass of lemon water. first of all, vitamin C is really important for the body. So when you throw some citrus in your water, it not only jazzes it up, but you've got extra vitamin C and antioxidants to help the body. Eating healthy, nourishing food is really important. Our immune system really needs a steady supply of nutrients. You don't get nutrients from a bagel. You don't get nutrients from a sleeve of Thin Mints, but you get them from everything in nature, whether it's beans or whole grains or plants. All think of your fruits and vegetables. Exercise on a daily basis is really important. And managing stress with meditation and releasing tension is also really important for the body. And sleep. We rest and we recover while we're sleeping. And not having enough sleep really can lead to an imbalance in the body and affect your immune system as well. So there's a lot of things in addition to food that we should do on a daily basis. And it's simple. Drink a lot of water, try to eat healthy food from nature, exercise, manage stress, whether it's meditate or breathing or listening to music, and getting enough sleep. Yeah. So they're basic things. It's nothing that should be very complicated.
One of the things that I've talked about with folks, and we did a program around it, was eating healthy, and really having a focus on what you eat. So, having the food, tasting the food, swallowing the food, rather than just, putting it right down and eating to the point of fullness. So really having a sense of savoring it being very, very, very important. But this whole idea of stress is a big one right now, and stress eating and sugar, what we do or how we've learned in society in terms of, how to take care of that, whether or not it's Haagen-Dazs or whether or not it's cookies or whether or not it's chocolate. Are there some healthy ways of, sort of, like, instead of going for the Haagen-Dazs, going for the banana or going for the orange? Do you have some tips? I mean, we talked about cacao, we talked about some other things. I know that, we talked about this before, but I'm just wondering, for folks that are looking at ways of kind of soothing themselves, do you have some, personal favorites that aren't so crazy?
That aren't so crazy. So you talked about fruit. There's nothing wrong with a banana. A banana is great. And fruits are sweet. So we are used to eating sweet foods. And it really only takes 5 to 10 days to switch your taste buds from that refined sugar to more natural forms of sweet. I always like to try to pair, say, a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate together. It makes your blood sugar balance more even. It's more satiating. So have banana with a nut butter.
So a protein, a fat, a carbohydrate. So that means like nuts, because they're protein and fat, right? And maybe like dried apricots or dried prunes or raisins or cranberries or something like that.
Exactly. So my real favorite sweet treat is a dried date with almond butter. So just to backtrack, carbohydrates. A bagel is not a carbohydrate. A muffin is not a carbohydrate. Those are all in the land of processed foods. So a carbohydrate is a vegetable, a grain, a fruit. So those are good carbohydrates. And the way I like to think of it is, if you can pick it from a tree or pull it from the ground, it's a good carbohydrate and it's good for you. Fruits, some vegetables are naturally sweet. So we had talked about it. So my favorite treat is a dried date with some almond butter. So you have your healthy fat, you have your protein, you have your carbohydrate from the date, and dried fruits are higher in natural sugar anyway. You don't want to eat a pound of them because it's still sugar, but it's still from nature. And that really will satisfy your sweet tooth, and you're going to be full. So you can eat a sleeve of Oreos and you want to eat another sleeve 15 minutes later. But a few dates with the nut butter will satisfy your sweet tooth, and you're not going to be craving it 15 minutes later.
I like that. Eat a sleeve of Oreos. It's spoken like somebody who has experience in eating sleeves of Oreos. Not that
my daughter's a Girl Scout. But yeah.
It's been a long time since I've twirled that thing off and eaten the center void, but that's good. And then you talked about sleep. I know that with everything going on, the 24-hour news cycle, one of the things that I've been talking about is limiting our exposure to the news cycle, because it has a tendency to go ahead and get the amygdala going, your adrenals going, and then you're in fight or flight, and then you can't really sleep all that well, and you have a disturbed sleep cycle. But do you have any sort of tips around that from the building the immune system up, so that we don't have to eat like up until the last moment or watch the news cycle or anything? Anything on your radar?
Well, I like to, as far as meals, we're so used to having food at our disposal constantly. So I really try to, it takes 3 to 6 hours, say, to digest a meal. And if you're going to have plant food, you're going to digest it faster. It takes longer to break down animal foods. So I really try to leave 3 to 4 hours in between a meal to just allow the body to do its natural thing. A lot of times people think about the way you were in Europe, where your main meal or your heavier meal was midday, and then you had a lighter meal at dinner. And then if you think of closing down the kitchen after dinner, and instead of mindlessly snacking in front of the TV or on your computer up until the time you go to bed, it gives your body a chance to digest, so that when you get into bed to go to sleep, you're not digesting food, you're actually getting ready to go to sleep. I've seen statistics where they say even 1 or 2 nights of poor sleep can suppress your immune system, and it is very hard to catch up. So the old adage of 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night is important. We all go to bed, or a lot of us do, with the phones or the iPads, TVs in the bedroom. Shut down, dim the lights, get rid of those blue lights, and actually read a book. And those are the things I think that'll really help sleep. And you talked about the fight or flight, and it just signals to the body, I need to rest and I need to recover, and it gets you out of that crazy mood that we're all in almost 24/7.
Right. And it's nice to hear. I've been moving over to the small little oranges, I forget what they're called, the cuties or something like that.
Clementines, yes.
Yeah, and they're just wonderful. You take and then I do confess, I do have a little peanut butter every once in a while with those. So they're a lot of fun. But tell me, in terms of home cooking, since many of us are not going out to restaurants, I think the amount of money we're spending is certainly less in the restaurants, maybe some takeout. But what are the benefits of home cooking in terms of being able to do that? And is there a way to, and I'll throw this in, is there a way to cook that it's not so just boring? I mean, so many people think, oh my God, I got to what am I going to do? I bought all those beans, I guess I got to use some of them. So any insights on some of that?
Well, so many people think of cooking as another chore, something that we need to do. Obviously, I'm a chef, I love to cook, but I always find that meal prep almost meditative. That's like an active form of meditation for me. So if you don't think of cooking as something on your to-do list, just try to think of cooking, as love really for your family. So get into that mode. Chopping vegetables, you don't have to be precise, but just you get into a groove, and it's a little bit of a meditative kind of thing. And in the end, you're putting things together for your family. Now we're really cooking more. I mean, there are so many benefits of cooking at home in general. First of all, as far as health is concerned and the immune system, you know exactly what's going into your body. So even if you order what you may think of a healthy meal in a restaurant, you don't know the quality of the oils that they're using. You don't know the quality of the food. You can't control the salt or the fat. So when you're at home, you can control exactly what it is that's going into your food, which makes it healthier. You do save money when you cook at home. We all, or everybody, or most people have now your kids at home. People ask me lots of questions too. My kids only eat chicken fingers, or they only want pizza. If you want your kids to learn how to eat healthy, teach them how to cook healthy. And now's the perfect example, because we're really home with our kids. As far as making things taste good, simple is better. I don't cook restaurant style meals at home. It's really home cooking. Those beans, you can put beans on a salad. You could put beans in soups. You can put beans in stews. make friends with your spice cabinet. We all have those dried spices in there. Some of them, you know, I've gotten rid of that I got when I got married almost 30 years ago. Fool around with the spices in your cabinet. Don't be tied to a recipe. So if you don't have kale but have Swiss chard, use Swiss chard. If you don't have white beans but have red beans, use white beans. If you've got the omelet sprinkle in your cabinet, throw that in, wake up flavors. Salt, unless you're avoiding salt for high blood pressure reasons, brings out the flavor in food if you use a good quality sea salt. And citrus, acid is my favorite thing. A squeeze of lemon juice, a squeeze of lime juice, a dash of any kind of vinegar will brighten up and waken up a dish.
Right,
So
right. I was amazed recently at the ability to use citrus and vinegar and some sugar or some, I use some soy, some amino acids as a way to go ahead and balance meals, and just how it just sort of perks up, and you know, you throw a little bit of garlic and some pepper and a little, you know, and you got a whole meal. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and it's all taste. Taste as you cook, right? So don't throw everything in all at once and then dump a bunch of salt on it. Taste a little bit as you go with every addition, and then you'll see. And it's really a matter of how it tastes to you. So, you know, my daughters are here and they're cooking too, and they're like, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, taste it and see how it tastes to you. And sometimes, right, I will make a dressing with lemon juice and a vinegar and maybe a little bit of raw honey, and it balances out the flavors. So mix your acid. You don't have to make a vinaigrette with just red wine vinegar. Use whatever you want. If you're making a soup or stew and it tastes flat, squeeze some lemon juice or lime juice in it, and it will really make a difference. And the soy is great. I use tamari. I use coconut aminos, which are both gluten-free. You can use soy sauce, and it really changes the flavor of a dish. So play around with all those condiments you have in your cabinet. You'd be surprised.
That's fantastic. I want to acknowledge who's on the line. We've got several folks on the line: Nancy, Beth, Kimberly, Lynn, Phil, Stacy, Kathy, and you know, additional folks as well. But if there is a little chat button down below, and if you have a question, you can chat your question as it comes up. You just simply hit the little chat bubble, and I have the chat window open. So if there is a question while Nancy is talking, please feel free to go ahead and write that out. We don't have to go on to you live. We don't have to get your picture into the video because this is being recorded and will be posted. But I just wanted to note that as a way to go ahead and have a interactive conversation for those people who are open to having that, or people who have questions as we go along here. My question, as we're talking, Nancy, is it's sort of a question that says, if you were to have 4 or 5 items, you know, the go-to items, the staple items that would really be healthy choices in your kitchen to go ahead and last you for a little while, because we got people hoarding toilet paper. You know, you can't eat toilet paper, right? But you know, I wanna be able to get I got a selection of beans, and I have some rice and stuff like that. And God forbid we should ever have to go ahead and charge into that. But what would you think of? What would be those things that you would say 4 or 5 items? And also another question coming from Stacy is, are there any good bean salad recipes, easy, quick, and tasty? And again, Stacy, I have loads of beans. We can go ahead, and I'm interested in this question as well. So yeah, please.
Definitely. Whole grains are great. So we all know the brown rice. Keith, we talked about it. Farro is one of my favorite whole grains. You can find it usually in the Italian section in the store, but it's got a nice chewy texture. If anybody's gluten-free, quinoa is always good. It cooks up really quick. So always having some kind of whole grain is good. It's going to be satisfying. It's got a ton of fiber, which is also really important for the digestive system and our immune system. Any kind of bean. Beans are versatile, whether you have dried beans and you want to spend a little time cooking yourself, or canned beans. I have both because sometimes I don't have the time or I forget to soak and cook a bean. Chickpeas are my favorite because you can put them in a soup or a stew or on a salad. So those are also really great. Any kind of frozen vegetable. Now, you know, we're worried about going out and getting fresh stuff. I love frozen vegetables and I always have them in my freezer as well. They're picked ripe. So you don't lose nutrition with it. So it's always great to have. And with any of that, you can throw a dish together. So I'm thinking Stacy, right, with a bean dish or a bean salad. You may have even have it. I don't remember. I really like to take a jar, I have jar roasted peppers. So it's always good to have some of those jars, preferably over cans if you can. But so you can take chickpeas, roasted peppers, say some asparagus if you have it, fresh or frozen, and maybe a little cucumber, and you toss it with a little red wine vinaigrette, and there you have a bean dish. If you've got a lot of beans, you can put in a different kinds of beans. So throw in some roasted red peppers with chickpeas, red beans, black beans, white beans. And if you mix it all together and change your vinaigrette, maybe with a little apple cider vinegar and extra virgin olive oil, you have a really good bean dish without having to think about a recipe. So that's as far as the salad is concerned. Yesterday, I took whatever leftover greens I had, threw in a little feta, some beans, any kind of vegetable you have, mix it all up, and it's great.
That sounds fantastic. I like that. I was just the description and then throwing on a little bit of some nice oil and a little apple cider vinegar or some other flavoring. Sounds
Right.
absolutely wonderful. I'm down with that.
And also another pantry staple, have all kinds of nuts and seeds, right? I thought about that too. I just threw on a handful of pumpkin seeds, which actually are a really great source of zinc. And that's something that's also very important right now with the immune system. But then you're changing your textures. So when you're thinking about those salads, you want to think about different colors and different textures. So maybe you have the roasted peppers that are soft and the beans that are a little soft, and you throw on some nuts or seeds, pumpkin seeds, almonds, hemp seeds, chia seeds. You get good healthy plant protein, good healthy fat, and a little bit of texture too. So it's not flat and boring, your dish. You want to taste different flavors and different textures.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing a lot of the seeds or the nuts for that matter, and adding those in. One of the things I think we were talking about was the ability to use the farro and then throwing in some grapes or throwing in just some figs or just fruit into a warm dish, and what that really does to the dish in terms of enlivening it up with with a whole bunch of stuff. And it's not that hard, is it?
It's not that hard. So you talk about the grapes. I'm glad you said that. Just for dinner last night, I made farro and red grapes. Cut them in half, put them in a 350-degree oven just for about 15 minutes. It kind of softens and warms them up. So I caramelized a red onion, threw in some thyme, roasted the grapes, made the farro, tossed it up, and we had a warm grain salad for dinner and a side roasted asparagus. And that was dinner. So it's something that, like a grape, where you don't think about cooking it, just throwing it in an oven for 15 minutes with a little sea salt. I didn't even put any olive oil on it. Changes the texture. It really sweetens it up. And it went really, really nicely with that farro. So you made me think about something, Keith, there when you said that.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. So I know I've got a lot more questions, but I do want to ask if anyone has any other questions that they'd like to ask. We've got about 15 minutes time. We've got another one. I love the recipe and make it all the time, your cooking class, but I substitute wild rice because I'm gluten. So using wild rice, and Stacy again just replied back on that one. So wild rice as one of the grains. Yeah.
Wild rice is one of the grains, and it's always a really great substitute for anybody that's gluten-free. So when you think gluten-free, you maybe think of brown rice, or you think of quinoa, but the wild rice is a nice alternative, and you're changing the different foods that you have so it doesn't get boring. And I've actually seen in the store, and I use a wild brown rice mix, which is really nice. So the texture is a little bit different in every bite. So Stacy, that's a perfect, great idea, and a very easy substitution. And that's kind of what I would want people to think about. So, well, I don't have this, or I can't have this, but I'm going to substitute this. So you're thinking out of the box, and it makes it really delicious.
So if you were to look at what a healthy plate looks like, I mean, you know, we've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner here, and you can only have, for me, I could have my cacao shake every single day. It doesn't matter. I love it. But I think, you know, we can get pretty bored with food, right? What would you suggest in terms of like looking at, you know, again, back to these staples? I think you've got some great staples there. Are you suggesting that we have, you know, beans and rice, or pick out a different protein every day? Maybe it's nuts or something else. Or I'm just trying to understand what a healthy plate looks like and how we can approach it during these times.
Okay, I always like to think of a healthy plate. I cut it into a pie. So you want half your plate to be vegetables. Any kind of vegetables you like, whether it's a salad or broccoli or cauliflower or a mix. Make then a quarter of the plate your protein, whether it's plant-based, so whether you're going to do a bean or a tofu or a tempeh, or if you're eating animal products, whether it's eggs or chicken or fish. And then the other quarter, your more starchy vegetables, so whether it's your potatoes or your rice or your pasta. And that's how I try to look at a plate the whole entire time. Make sure you always have that protein, fat, and fiber, carbohydrate. It's kind of like the trifecta of building a meal or a snack, because it's going to give you a variety of nutrients. It's going to be satisfying, and it's going to get you through the next 4 hours. So it doesn't have to be crazy. Like your snack could be that trifecta, but it's the date with the almond butter. And mix it up. So try not to get into the habit of, I always eat oatmeal every single day. Totally mix it up, but always kind of think of half the plate vegetable, a quarter starchy, and a quarter of your lean protein. And whether it's a smaller breakfast or your midday meal or your dinner, and then use whatever you have on hand. Instead of getting focused on, I need to make this, I need to make this, I need to make this. You think of it in general, I think it'll help you make things a lot easier and a lot more interesting. And also colors. You know, colors. We tell kids all the time, eat the color of the rainbow. Pick out all the colorful vegetables, because I guess it's in Ayurveda, they say you start, digestion begins in the mind, and then you've heard people say you eat with your eyes first. So if something looks pretty and appealing to you, you're going to want to eat it. It's going to be more interesting to you. So whatever colors you can do and mix it up. That's the best way. You want variety.
Great, great. Well, I know going out to the store and picking out fruits and picking out vegetables, you know, there's loads of colors and things that you can do. But we've got one question from Phil who asked the question about, you know, the COVID-19 and specifically health and maintaining health, or maybe even you having some fruits or some vegetables that might not be good for you at this particular time. So do you have any suggestions in terms of building the immune system or staying away from certain things? Like I know they always say some people say stay away from nightshades, you know, that kind of a thing. But do you have any insights? You know, are there any types of fruits or vegetables that people should avoid, or that people should maybe look at because it builds their immune system, or because it actually breaks down the immune system?
I don't think any fruit or vegetable will break down the immune system. So when you mention nightshades, people will avoid nightshades if they maybe have arthritis. I think in general, any fruit or vegetable is good for you. So it becomes individualized. If you eat something and it bothers you, then you know not to eat it. Okay, so they say nightshades are inflammatory. It's all individual. I don't think.
Just for those people who don't know what nightshades are, what are nightshades? Yeah.
Nightshades are vegetables that grow in the shade of the night. So it's potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, and there's one other.
Eggplants?
Eggplant, okay. You know, my sister has arthritis and nightshades do not bother her. So every fruit and vegetable is good for you. And I wouldn't see any of them. COVID-19. Fruit and vegetables are where you get all your phytonutrients. So the more plants you eat, the better. So you don't have to be plant-based, but I think we tend to think of plants or vegetables as a side dish. I would bring them to the center of the plate, and that's where you're going to get all the phytonutrients that your body needs to fight whatever's thrown up against
Great.
us. So
Great.
plants all the way.
Good. So I know that we've got a time where, you know, this is a time for us to go ahead and go inside. A lot of people are staying inside, and a lot of people are really wondering kind of what to do with their time, or how to go ahead and, you know, go ahead and really take care of themselves from a body, from a mind, from an emotional perspective. So I think you've really provided a lot of insights here. Is there any, you sent me, I'd love you to share this recipe that you sent me yesterday. If you want to share that. I think it was the chickpea one.
Right. So I sent you, and we can share it, right? So you can figure out how we can post it either to the website, or
Yeah.
so we can figure out how to do it. But I wanted to share a very simple recipe that is really immune boosting, right? So there is no superfood. You know, people will say, you know, have chia seeds or kale, or I think all plant foods are superfoods, and they all react differently in the body. But I wanted to share a vegetable soup with chickpeas. So it's all plant-based, and the ingredients, I'll just zip through them really quickly because they're basic and they're pretty much stuff everybody has in their house.
Get your pens ready. Okay, we're all ready, and I will post this to the website as well. Go ahead.
Definitely post it, because I'll kind of just go through the ingredients and maybe just talk about some of the nutritional value. But your basic soup base is onion, carrots, celery, and garlic. Okay, if you have those, you can make a soup out of everything. I also have some fresh ginger in there. You can use dried. Ginger is really anti-inflammatory and great for digestion. There's some lemon in there. It's lemon juice and the lemon zest. The lemon zest really, really brightens out the flavor of the soup, and there's a lot of minerals in those oils. If anybody uses essential oils, you know, you could throw a lemon essential oil in your water, and that's full of antioxidants and vitamin C. There's some crushed red pepper in there, and there's turmeric in there, which is really inflammatory. I used chickpeas. You can use any kind of bean. And I used, on here, it's for that lacinato or dinosaur kale. You can use any kind of kale or any kind of green that you have. But it pretty much covers everything. So you've got onions, garlic, carrots, celery, extra virgin olive oil I use. That's your healthy fat. You've heard of prebiotics and probiotics. Onions and garlic are prebiotics. They make your gut environment good for the probiotics that everybody's always talking about. Ginger's anti-inflammatory. Turmeric is anti-inflammatory. Make sure you use black pepper when you use turmeric, because it activates the curcumin in it, which has all the anti-inflammatory properties in it. This is vegetarian, so I used a vegetable broth. If you don't have broth, you can use water. If you have chicken stock or chicken bone broth, that's really good too. I make bone broth all the time. It's got a lot of amino acids in it that kind of converts into antioxidants in the body. So all of these things are immune boosting. The chickpeas are plant protein. It's a great source of fiber. We need all fiber in our diet. And greens, any kind of green to me is a superfood. So you kind of have the kitchen sink of vegetables in there, and you have a really delicious, satisfying, immune boosting soup. And if you're gonna do all that chopping, make a big batch, have it for meals throughout the week, freeze it. So when all of a sudden you're running around, you're at a loss for food, you can actually pull out a soup and defrost it, and then you've got something on hand. And we will post the recipe. So it's something that's, I think, very simple. Spend a little time chopping, but think of it as a little form of meditation, and get into the zone, and you're good.
I love that. I made a bok choy soup yesterday. We got an Instapot, and it's so, you just throw everything in there, and you know, I just took whatever was in the kitchen. But I love all this onions, carrots, celery, garlic, and just sort of the basics. And I'm definitely going to be making that at some point in my future here. And I do make a lot because I like leftovers. So.
I do the same thing, exactly.
Oh,
That's just
that's
as
great.
smart.
So that's great. So we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. If anyone else has any questions, this is the time to ask them. And I think what you gave us was loads of great information, and I'm really very thankful. So let me just see, is there anyone else that might have a question? And if you want to ask the question directly, that's fine. I can take us all off of mute, and you can just ask the question. So let me just do that for a second. And again, just be mindful you're all off of mute now. So everyone's off of mute. And is there a question coming from Beth?
Me? No, I was just trying to mute my phone because I'm doing something. I don't want to disturb you guys. Sorry. But I do love all the suggestions.
Oh, and I just want to, Stacy, what I'll do is I'm going to put together some ideas from some bean salad recipes, and I'll get some. So I made a note of that. So instead of just rattling things off my head, I'll put together either some ideas or some good combinations. And then when we get the recipe for the soup posted, I will have Keith post that as well, as soon as we can figure out how to do that. So then you've got a resource to go back to.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
To make that one already, so we need to give you a new one.
I love that recipe. I make it all the time.
Good.
Right. All right, so I'm muting everyone now because we are going to come to a close, and I'm going to mute everyone except for myself and for you, Nancy. Okay. I just want to just close in back to our discussion, and 1 second. Yep. Okay. So Nancy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Okay. Can you hear me?
Right. I can. Perfect. So just to give everyone a perspective, over the next, I think we said about 3 or 4 weeks, right? We've got a series of tips that we'll be going through. Can you give us a little bit of a preview, just very quickly in the last couple of minutes, as to what people might expect if they come back?
Absolutely. Again, so many people are thinking about how to cook, or what to cook. We mentioned the farro, so I was thinking about doing, some alternative dishes with grains, or how to do grains. Another thing that kind of incorporates all different foods, I love a good bowl. So I love to talk about nourishing bowls, and there's a whole almost template of how to build a nourishing bowl with different kinds of dressings to make things not boring and to excite them up. So that's another thing. I love soups and stews. To me, they're the easiest thing. So that's another thing going forward I thought we would talk about. So we have a ton of ideas. As we're getting into the spring season, I love to cook with foods in season. I think, you want to eat with nature. So the farms are going to start with their things. So I thought we'd also go with foods that are going to be available now and going forward into the summer. So you're not going to want to cook, a big hearty stew in May. So we'll address things that are going to be available in season, which is really important.
Great. And I looked ahead and I saw something about kale, and I know a lot of people can get really frightened with kale because while they know it's good, they don't necessarily know how to massage it or how to cook it or, what to do with it. So I'm looking forward to that, specifically, because I can get a little crazy about, I love it, but it can be a little frightening as a vegetable.
It can be a little frightening. So, but that's what I'm going to do. We're going to take the fear out of cooking and make everybody just see how simple it can be to make things taste good.
So just the closing area, if people want to find out more about you and find out more about what you're up to, where would they go to go ahead and get some more information?
Okay, so my website is Nancy's Nourishing Kitchen, nancysnourishingkitchen.com. My email is nancyferraris@me.com, FERRARIS@me.com. That's my website, that's my email. I'm on Instagram @nourishing.nancy. And on Facebook, Nancy's Nourishing Kitchen is my page as well. I try to post a lot of things on on Instagram, and then that will transfer into my Facebook page, but anybody can either look at my website or email me, and my phone number is on there too. Email, call, I'll send you recipes, I'll answer any questions, so I'm always available.
Great, and I encourage everyone to go to your Instagram channel. You've got loads of wonderful pictures and loads of great information. So, and this has been really a lot of fun. So I really want to thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
For the
It's been a
time.
pleasure.
Really, really great. And I'm looking forward to doing this next week. So thank you, thank you, thank you, okay? And thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next week. And this video will be posted up to the channel as soon as we're able to go ahead and post it, okay? All right, thanks everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye now. Okay. So I'm gonna end, and then we'll get back to you. Let me just stop recording here, 1 second.
All right, so I'm going to end too.